Hey friends, so this week we're going to be reviewing multiplication and division in math. So I decided to do a quick review before you get into your multi-step word problems and your strip diagrams and equations and all that good stuff. We're just going to kind of review what multi-step multiplication and division look like, especially with interpreting the remainder for division, because it has been a long time since we've done that. So this video, it's not going to be anything that you're working on in your slide. None of these problems are going to be in your slides for the week, but it will help you with what you are going to be doing in your slides. So the first thing we're going to look at is multi-step multiplication word problems. And I just pulled some problems that we had already done. That way it looks familiar to you. We're going to go through these, just do a couple. I also have division multi-step, interpreting the remainder as a 1, and then interpreting the remainder as a 0 for division. So let's just look at number 1 right here. Henry purchased 4 shirts that cost $45 each. If Henry started with $200, how much money does he have left over? So just like we always do, I'm going to go ahead and underline that question. I'm going to circle leftover because that's going to be my key word. Now this is multi-step. Remember, it is a multi-step multiplication problem. So that means I'm not just going to do one thing and then have my answer. I'm going to have to go through a couple different steps. So with this one, the first thing I have to do is I have to figure how much money did he completely spend? So what was his total spent on shirts? It says here that he purchased 4 shirts. Each shirt was $45. So I can use multiplication to solve for how much he spent, right? So 45 times 4, 5 times 4 is 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 2 is 18. So he spent $180 on shirts. He started with $200. They're asking me, what is his change going to be? How much is he going to have left over? So now I'm going to subtract, which we could probably do this in our heads, but I'm going to do it on here. 0, I'm going to borrow. This turns into a 2. That cancels each other out. So he's going to have $20 left over. And there's your multi-step. Let's do one more. Like I said, these are ones that we've done in class before. But just to give you a little review with something that you're familiar with, we're going to do them again. Jake invited 8 friends over for a water balloon fight. Each friend received 24 balloons. When the fight was over, only 3 water balloons were left over. How many water balloons were used in the water balloon fight? Okay, so with this one, it's definitely a multi-step. And I do remember when we did this in class, a lot of us had a difficult time because you were almost having to work your way backwards and there were different things that you were having to figure. So we're trying to figure out how many water balloons did they use in the fight? So what was the total number of water balloons that they started with? So we're going to underline that. How many water balloons were used in the fight? So we're looking for a total. That's what we're trying to figure out. He invited over 8 friends. Each friend received 24 balloons. When the fight was over, only 3 water balloons were left over. So I need to figure out how many total balloons did he give out. All right, so 8 friends, 24 balloons. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. 24 times 8, because he had 8 friends over. Oh, hold on. I made a mistake. It's not going to be 8. I almost didn't catch that. 8 friends, but I have to include him in that total. So it's actually going to be 9. It says here, each friend received 24 balloons. So that's including himself in that fight. I would assume he wouldn't invite over people and not be part of the water balloon fight, one would think, right? So I'm going to actually do 24 times 9. All right, 24 times 9. 4 times 9 is 36. 6, carry over the 3. 2 times 9 is 18. 18, 19, 20, 21. So that's 216. Each friend received 24 balloons. I got that. 8 friends plus Jake. So we've got that. We've got the 9. When the fight was over, only 3 water balloons were left over. How many water balloons were used? So they started out with 216 balloons, right? That's how many total balloons were given out to Jake and his friends. he had 3 left over. So those 3 were technically not used in the fight. And it's saying here how many were used in the fight. So I'm going to subtract 216 minus 3, and that's going to give me 213. So 213 balloons were used in the fight. So there's your other multiplication multi-step. This one had multiplication and subtraction, just like the first one. All right, let's look at division multi-step. Division multi-step, making sure you can see that. All right, so it has been a long time, just like multiplication. It's been a while since we've done division. So we kind of need to remind ourselves of how we divide, especially with long division. So let's look at number 1. Thomas worked 10 days at the market, and it should say earned, but it doesn't. Earned $57 a day. If Thomas wants to split his earnings into 3 bank accounts, how much money will he put in each account? Okay, 2 things I need to do here. I first need to figure out how much total money he made in those 10 days. Then, once I have that total, I need to split that total into 3 separate bank accounts. They're wanting to know how much is he going to be able to put in each of those bank accounts. So my first step is going to be multiplication, 10 times 57. My second step is going to be division. I'm going to take the product that I get from 57 times 10, and then I'm going to divide that product into 3. So I'll go ahead and do the first step first. 57 times 10. I can use the zeros trick for this. So I'm going to cross out that 0. It's 57. Add that 0 back in. He made a total of $570. I'm going to take this total, and remember, he wants to put it into 3 separate bank accounts. So I'm going to take 570, and I'm going to divide it by 3. So this is where you would typically put your tic-tac-toe off to the side. We would fill it out. So it's, oopsie, 3, 6, 12. Uh-oh. That's not 12, that's 9. 9. There we go. 12, 15, 18, 21. Oops. 24 and 27. All right, so here's my tic-tac-toe. 3 times 3, 3 times 2, or 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, and so on and so forth. So I can use this tic-tac-toe to help me with my division. I'm going to start out with a 5. I know that my box that comes closest is box number 1. 1 times 3 is 3. So now I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. My next step is to bring down. So I'm going to bring down that 7. So now I'm working with 27. Well, I have a box that has a 27 in it. That box is box number 9. So I'm going to put a 9 up at the top. 9 times 3 is 27. I'm going to subtract and I get a 0. I still have to bring down. So I have a 0. I can't just leave the 0 there. I haven't finished my quotient. I don't have a number on top of this 0 right here. So I'm going to put a 0 right there because 0 times 3 is 0. So 0 is my remainder. He's going to be able to put $190 into each account. Into each account. All right, let's look at number 2. Gina purchased 3 packs of bows for her dance team. Each pack contained 150 bows. If she needs to split the bows among 6 girls, how many bows will each girl receive? All right, so once again, I'm going to use multiplication and then division to figure out how many bows each girl will receive. The first thing I need to do is I need to figure out how many total bows she bought. So she bought 3 packs. Each pack had 150 bows in it. So my first step is 150 times 3. 0 times 3 is 0. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry over the 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. So she bought a total of 450 bows. She needs to split this number among 6 girls. So I'm going to take that 450, going to divide by 6. Same thing, you're going to set up your tic-tac-toe. We'll just kind of carry it over right here. All right, 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, and then 54. So there's my tic-tac-toe with my 6, because that's what I'm going to be dividing by. I'm going to start out with this 4. 4 is not greater than 6. I'm going to put a 0 on top. I'm going to move on. 45. What box comes close to 45 without going over? That's box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Box 7. 7 times 6 is 42. 5 minus 2 is 3. Bring down the 0. I'm left with 30. Box number 5 has a 30 in it, so I'm going to put a 5 on top of the 0, and then I'm going to subtract. I do not have a remainder. I have nothing left over. That means each girl will get 75 bows. It's a mite much if you ask me, but you know what? It is what it is. She's giving them 75 bows. All right, so there's your multi-step with division. So now we're going to look at interpreting remainders. So when we looked at interpreting remainders the first time, there are 2 ways you can interpret a remainder with division. You can either interpret it as a 0 and it goes away, or you can interpret it as a 1 and you add that 1 to your quotient. So the first way we're going to look at interpreting is with a 0. Madison had a pack of 500 beads. She is making bracelets that contain 8 beads each. How many bracelets can Madison make? Remember, each bracelet must have those 8 beads. If it doesn't, she can't make a complete bracelet. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 500 divided by 8. So I've set up my house. I'm going to do my tic-tac-toe off to the side here. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, and then 72. So I know it's small, sorry guys, but it's there. I don't want to take up too much space. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72. There we go. So now I'm going to start dividing. 5 is not greater than 8. I cannot divide it. So I'm going to put a 0 on top of my house. I'm going to move over, and now I'm looking at 50. The closest I can get to 50 is box number 6, and that is 48. 50 minus 48 is 2. I'm going to drop this down, and it becomes a 20. So now I'm dividing 20 by 8. The closest I can get is box number 2, and that is going to be 16. 10 minus 6 is 4. So I'm going to have a remainder of 4. But I can't say she's going to make 62 bracelets with a remainder of 4. I have to interpret that remainder. I'm going to interpret this remainder as a 0 because she cannot take those 4 beads that are left over and turn them into a bracelet. She has to have the 8 beads. So this drops off. And your answer would be Madison is able to make 62 bracelets because, let's see, she has 4 beads left over. She cannot make a bracelet with those remaining beads. Ta-da! So that remainder is interpreted as a 0 and it drops off, it goes away. All right? So now we're going to look at interpreting the remainder as a 1. Edison Elementary is going to take 128 fifth graders on a field trip. The students need to be split into groups of 7. How many groups will be needed for all of the fifth graders? So I'm going to divide 128 divided by 7. I'm sure I didn't give myself enough space there. So I'm going to do my tic-tac-toe off to the side. So it's 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, and then 63. Man, it's been a while since I've done my facts. I'm kind of forgetting these. I need to start doing them weekly. I'm sure y'all are forgetting them too. Y'all should probably start doing them weekly. I'm going to start doing them weekly. Y'all need to start doing them weekly too. All right, here we go. So we're going to be dividing 128 by 7. So I'm going to start out with that 1. I'm not going to put anything over that 1 except for a 0 because 1 is less than 7. I cannot divide 1 into 7. So I'm going to move on to the 2, and now it's a 12. What box comes closest to 12 without going over? That would be box number 1. 1 times 7 is, 7. So now I'm going to subtract. 12 minus 7 is 5. And I'm going to bring down that 8. So the closest I can get to 58 without going over would be box number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's my 8 on top. And in box 8 is 56. So now I'm going to subtract again. 8 minus 6 is 2. So my remainder is 2. But I know that I can't say they're going to need 18 groups remainder 2 for all the fifth graders. That's not possible. I have to interpret this remainder. They need to make sure that they have enough groups for all of the fifth graders, all of the fifth graders. That means this remainder right here needs to be interpreted as a 1 that I add to my quotient of 18. So now I'm going to explain my remainder. Edison Elementary will need a total of 19 groups for all of the fifth graders to be included. And there we go. You've interpreted the remainder as a 1. So hopefully this review helps you with your work for this week. You are going to be looking at different problem solving with division, with multiplication. You're going to look at equations. You're going to look at strip diagrams. And then at the very end, you're going to be looking at interpreting remainders and what you do with those remainders. So hopefully this helps you, and have a great week.